I wanted to also talk to you about COVID and your thoughts on that and what that means for you as well. What's your take on COVID?
My take on COVID is this. It's simple. I like, as a numbers guy, I like to understand the data and the stats. And I think my biggest disappointment of where we are today in September is the stats. It's very difficult to find a set of stats that you can actually apply some credibility to. So as a result of that, any decisions they're making at the moment, they're bound to be contradictory, right? Because this is uncharted territory for everybody. So I don't mind that. But what I do mind is they've gone from looking at their sort of death stats, which were devastating, and they've never really come out and told us, actually, from March to June, this is what happened. These are the stats. This is what happened. These are the people that are vulnerable. These are the people that lost their lives. Out of the 45,000 that lost their lives, 35,000 of them would have lost their life anyway, for example. Not saying that's true, by the way, I've just made that up. But we have no context to the information that they're providing us. And actually, since the stats have got stats have got better from a health perspective, or at least they appear better from a health perspective, the minute that happened, he went off. So the leadership effectively went, it's terrible, it's terrible, it's terrible, it's getting better, we're off. Rather than giving us that every week, okay, here's where we are. These are the deaths. Children can't get it. We're sending them all back to school. How can people be scared to send the kid back to school, right, when they haven't given us the stats, but they've leaked out bits of stats that basically no children are at harm? Hardly any children. There's more chance of your child getting knocked down outside the school gates than there is of being seriously ill from coronavirus. Why have they not come out and said that?
Yeah.
So for me, there's been a lack of leadership, the Cummings and all this kind of stuff. For me, if you tell somebody, one of the things about me is I might not be the easiest person to work with, but when I say something and I ask somebody to do something, I go and I do that. It's only a behaviour that I'll do myself to justify why somebody else should do it. In that leadership team, they do what they want. They expect us to do something. They do what they want. You never see the leader, Boris. Boris is hardly ever updating us anymore. He's not there to tell us what it means. He's just issued us with some data, and that data was better than some of the data we've been given. But if you ask me, they said things like, well, you could have up to 200 people a day die from COVID if it escalates like that. But put that into context. It's 200 people per day dying of 1,800 that die. So that's 10 to 15%. But what they didn't say was those 200, probably 150 of them had illnesses that meant they would have died anyway. And don't get me wrong, I'm not trying to say this isn't tragic. I am.
Just say, even if we round it up, we say we've got 7.5 billion people on this earth, and we're saying a million of those are dying of COVID. And when you look at the stats of that versus someone who's dying of, I don't know, cancer or any other disease, how does it stack up? I think that's where the point that you're trying to make is around the visibility and the transparency of what those numbers actually mean. And being a business leader, we expect that of our own employees and within our own business. So of course we want it from the government or the system.
They've got to apply context, because we know the figures are going to go up.
Absolutely.
So they either drive fear with the figures going up, and of course all that fear is driving is the lack of education in the schools, right? Because every other week I've got a letter coming home from one of my kids saying they're either been in the bubble and now they've got to have 2 weeks off, or they weren't. But another 55 kids have had to have 2 weeks.
So please do subscribe for weekly updates. We'll have other interviews with other leaders such as Paul here